want to be clear. The coming days and months will be challenging, and they will call for some sacrifices. But we will share those sacrifices.
Want to know the real reason why Pierre Poilievre lost the election, why a number of very prominent conservatives lost their seats and their ridings? I think I have the answers for you. Mark Carney is supposed to be meeting with Donald Trump very soon, and I'm quite positive that this Liberal minority government is likely going to be much, much worse than the last, and I'll tell you why. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated, and it is more important than ever right now to subscribe, follow, like the video, comment your thoughts down below, because obviously the machine has worked. So we need to counter that, and we can only do that with your support. I also have some potentially unpopular takeaways and a very big immediate blow to the Canadian economy from none other than Mark Carney and Liberal policies.
We've ended the radical left war on American energy. We've stopped their crusade on coal. Did you see what I did the other day? Clean, beautiful coal. I said, you're not allowed to use the word coal unless you say clean, beautiful coal. So you have guys getting up, Department of Energy. We have great people at Department of Energy. They talk about clean, beautiful coal. You know, China uses coal. They're opening up a coal plant every week, a massive coal plant. But we're not allowed to use it. But now we are, because last week I gave it absolute, total approval. And you know what I don't give approval to? Those stupid windmills that go round and round and round. And we've ended the Green New Scam. We've reopened ANWR, the greatest drilling site anywhere in the world, in Alaska, and implemented the new energy policy of the United States. You know what it is? We have a policy. It's called Drill, Baby, Drill. That's our policy.
Boy, oh boy, that could not be further from what is about to happen to the Canadian economy under Mark Carney. We'll get through some clips of him saying exactly what it is that he wants to do, the same things he's been saying forever, the same things he wrote a book about that most Liberal voters definitely did not read. This just in, though, Stellantis is going to be moving some of their auto production to avoid U.S. tariffs. And unfortunately, Mark Carney, with his insane carbon tax plan and, we want to tax the biggest industries and polluters, you know, the ones who actually invest in our economy and provide us jobs, we're going to tax them even harder.
We need to ultimately get to a point where every financial decision is taking climate change into account, the impact on the transition.
To reach net zero, every country, every company, every bank, every investor, every pension fund around the world will need to make some big changes. In the run-up to COP26 in Glasgow, we have an enormous opportunity to bring climate change into the heart of every financial decision.
Now, Stellantis is all about net zero. They're all about getting rid of carbon, even though it's 0.04 of the Earth's atmosphere, even though Canada contributes to less than 1.7% of the global carbon emissions, even though carbon is plant food, all of that stuff. They're also a huge sustainability type of company. So the fact that they are going to be moving their production out of Canada due to Trump tariffs, due to the instability of the Canadian economy, due to the high taxes of the Canadian economy is so not surprising, but it's just the beginning.
Kevin, your thoughts here? We still don't know if it's a majority or a minority Liberal government, but they have won. They are in power. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with you. It was historic, no question about it. A unique set of circumstances, imputed by Trump's constant barbing at Canada's the 51st state gave unique opportunity for Carney. And I think he did a masterful job in getting people in every province to say, look, let's forget about the Liberals' track record and let's focus on the enemy within North America, and that was Trump. Now, let's be pragmatic about this. I think over the next 11, 12 hours, we'll determine whether this is just an extension of the minority that the Liberals had for the last 3 mandates, and now it's the 4th minority. And unfortunately, if you go back and look at history, when a new incumbent comes in but only gets a minority government, It lasts about 18 to 24 months in the parliamentary system. In both Britain and Canada, sometimes less in Britain. So Carney's really got a tough road ahead here because their old ally, the NDP, has been decimated, completely erased. And it'll take a while to rebuild that. I don't think they're out of the game forever, but they're certainly out of it now. And I don't think the Canadian voter is interested in another union with socialists. That didn't work over the last 10 years. And they're going to have to find a way to rebuild the country. Now, there are two impediments right now. Number one is C-69, a bill that has forced capital away from Canada because there's no way to get any kind of infrastructure or resource-based development done under C-69. And the Liberals proved that. They were able to kill off any investment in resources over a 10-year period. I don't know why they want to do that, but they did. And then also this carbon tax on industrial development, big problem. Sovereign wealth is not interested when they can go to Texas and avoid that. And that's where they're going. You've seen all these announcements around all kinds of projects south of the border, billions and billions of dollars. We have to be competitive with that. And I think Carney's going to have to face that reality. And in order to get anything done, the only place he can go, assuming he remains a minority, and I am assuming that, it's going to be very hard to pick up the remaining seats.
So here's the thing. First, we have Blanchet, who has already said that he is willing to sign a deal with the Liberals.
And we will have to remain the barrier not to be crossed, protecting French language and secularity of the state in Quebec, and a different model in immigration which has to be successful, and the fact that there's no future for oil and gas, at least in Quebec and probably everywhere, and this has to be said and protected. I have a brand new weapon to do that. Mr. Bonin will be extraordinary carrying that message. There's no way to prevent anybody from doing anything which respects the rules, but it's so tight that it's not that obvious that those kind of deals will work. And nobody should already, I would say, look at the numbers saying, okay, we can send everybody to hell because we'll make a deal with the NDP. That would not be the right way to do things.
So yes, it would be a terrible idea for the NDP to partner with the Liberals, again, giving us the exact same government we have already had. But what they have in store, by all accounts, is much, much worse than that. And I'll tell you more about that. Let's just first watch this video of an NDP saying that they have no agenda with Mark Carney and the Liberals.
Doesn't official party status, though, have to be earned? And didn't your party not earn it?
Well, it's in the standing orders. It's not a legislated number, Bashi. It's something that's fluid. Liberals don't have a majority. They're going to need the support of other parties. And
just really quickly, if I understand that correctly, does that mean that basically you could use something like official party status as a bargaining chip in exchange for support on the entire government agenda, or just a piece of it?
Oh, I'm not saying anything like that. I mean, there's no agenda even constructed at this point. You know, I'm just saying that in a minority parliament, governments have to listen in a way that they don't in a majority parliament. And so that I think that opens opportunities for us.
The Liberal government is very close to majority territory, though, and all that would need to happen is a few NDPs crossing the floor to make it a Liberal majority. And by the way, that is completely legal to do. Mark Carney could very easily offer them a big fancy cabinet position that could twist their arm. We've seen things like this happen in the past, and I'm sure, as well as many others, that this is likely what is to come. So if they weren't going to be propped up by the NDPs or the Bloc in a coalition like we previously had, this right here would probably, if I was Mark Carney, this is what I would be trying to do. And it sounds like it's already something that's in the works.
Now, it has been speculated the Liberals may reach across and invite members to join them, cross the floor. Would that be something you would consider, sitting as a Liberal?
Well, that's a very interesting thought. As I say, I'm going to be focused on the issues itself. There may be moments where we can work collaboratively with the government to get things done, and that would be my primary goal, to get things done for Canadians.
As far as I can tell, the biggest reason why a number of prominent Conservative MPs, many of which I've spoken with since, as well as Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives as a whole not winning this election, it's due to the fact that Canada went from being a three-party system to a two-party system. And the fact that there were a number of NDP candidates that actually were non-existent in certain ridings, the complete decimation of the NDP caused people to vote Liberal rather than those votes being divvied up between NDP and Liberals, and then the Conservatives being able to reign supreme, which they have been able to do in the past. So to me, as far as I can tell with my analysis, that is the biggest reason why this election was the way that it was. And you can thank Jagmeet Singh for that, because he said that, you know, he didn't want the Conservatives to win, which is, I guess, why we now know he was completely okay with his party being driven into the ground just to prevent that from happening. A lot of people have also been asking about Pierre Poilievre because he also lost his riding. And so I want to point out a few important notes here, because Poilievre's riding had expanded into some pretty heavy Liberal territory. His riding had also increased their population by thousands of eligible voters who are immigrants. And statistically speaking, new immigrants tend to vote Liberal or NDP, mostly Liberal though.
I think it's very clear, regardless, we'll see what happens inside his own riding, and we're being very careful because advanced votes and all those kinds of things, but he was definitely laying the groundwork that he has no intention of leaving, and he was pointing to the proof points as to why he deserves to stay and continue this fight. And I know you think that he will. I do know people who are already gearing up to try and push him out. We'll see what happens.
Well, I know a lot of Conservatives in Canada, and I haven't heard that from anybody. Not to say they don't exist.
Well, they exist. I don't know if they tell you, but they told me.
He certainly has earned, in my view, the right to stay on as leader for the reasons I've already articulated and that he did tonight. Look, he's got to show some humility for sure. Any leader who loses in any circumstance has to do that.
Traditionally, yes, when a leader loses, they end up resigning or they get pushed out. I have also heard similar rumors as to what Rosemary Barton claims to have heard. However, I'm not even remotely concerned about that. I've had so many of my friends and you messaging me, asking me about this one, and I feel with the utmost certainty and confidence that Pierre Poilievre is going nowhere, rightfully so. What he has managed to do with this Conservative Party in bringing in new voters is something I have never, ever seen in Canadian politics in the, 15 years now that I have been interested and studying Canadian politics. It has been absolutely incredible. One of the most beautiful movements I've ever witnessed. And I do not think that Pierre Poilievre is going anywhere. I also think that we will be back at the polls likely within the next 2 years. And it's going to be bigger and better than ever. And I think that even this downtime, because a by-election will need to be called, that unfortunately is in the hands of Mark Carney, who very obviously does not want to be in the House against Pierre Poilievre. So the Liberal government, all governments, are actually going on summer holidays for 100 days. Parliament will resume in September. I don't think Mark Carney is going to be doing any favors in calling a by-election until that point. And I actually think this will give Pierre Poilievre an incredible time frame to recalibrate, focus, and remember what he is, who he is, and what we have to do in order to win this. Because I do think that we will be at the polls much sooner than we think for another federal election.
Canada as a whole got a sense of that feeling of hurt and betrayal with the way the Americans are treating us right now. But we've been treated that way for the last 10 years. Treated like our interests don't matter. Treated like our economic imperatives aren't important. Treated like we should be just shut up and just be satisfied with whatever the central government decides to do, regardless of whether it's constitutional or not. I think that's what you were seeing in this last election. And I think Albertans want to share my view that we want to be able to have Alberta sovereignty within a united Canada. But we also would like to see Team Canada be on Team Alberta for once. And that's what, when I say I live in hope that that's going to happen, it hasn't happened for the last 10 years. And so that's part of the reason why I think Albertans are frustrated. I think that they were hoping for a big change, and they didn't get it last night. So I'm going to do what I can to work with the current government, as I always have, to find areas of common agreement and to try to address those things that have been causing some of that feeling of betrayal and hurt. And hopefully we'll be able to forge a stronger approach with our fellow premiers, and a recognition from the federal government that they've got to honor the Constitution.
While I may have a slightly different take than this article by Blender News, I do think that it is certainly something to think about, and it is beautifully written as well, so I wanted to share it with you. It goes on to say here that the 2025 election was a battle for the soul of Canada, and the Conservatives brought a handshake to a knife fight. Canada has become so pathologically soft that Danielle Smith is now the biggest set of balls in the country. She doesn't placate, she doesn't beg for approval, she governs with a spine. Up against a regime armed with state-backed media, dirty political tricks, and a propaganda machine running at full tilt, Pierre Poilievre played it safe. Faced with absurd accusations, being Canada's Trump, threatening abortion rights, his campaign chose to placate rather than punch back. Rather than control the conversation, they let the Liberals write the script. Wrong move. You don't win a street fight with etiquette. Say what you want about Donald Trump, but the man knows how to hijack the narrative. With a single tweet, he planted the idea of annexing Canada into the minds of millions, prompting a frenzied national response. That's narrative dominance. In contrast, Poilievre spent his entire campaign reacting, never setting the pace, never seizing the initiative. It goes on to say that Poilievre stood in the center of the ring and let the Liberals tee off on him. No counters, no setups, just rope-a-dope until he collapsed. He was at his best when he stayed on offense, like the viral Apple interview where he dismantled a corporate journalist smear with nothing but calm questions and a smirk, exposing just how shallow and scripted their attacks really are. But once the Liberals rendered his Axe the Tax slogan useless and stole his platform, he lost his footing. His messaging turned soft and reactive. Instead of flipping the Trump narrative on its head, he played into it, failing to ask the obvious. Why is a foreign politician the centerpiece of the Liberals' campaign? Because it distracts from their own record, rampant corruption, economic collapse, and an open border policy that is reshaping the country.
Just 3 months ago, Pierre was at 92% on prediction market call sheet, and he was leading in the polls by as much as 27 points. So two things popped the bubble. First, the Liberals ditched the ridiculous Justin Trudeau for Mark Carney, a World Economic Forum tool who looks presidential on TV. Second, Donald Trump, whose insults and jibes about annexing Canada triggered a rally round the maple leaf at the expense of Poilievre, who Canadian media framed as Canada's Trump.
While I had planned on talking a little bit more about Alberta referendum, don't worry, I've been getting your emails and it's also a priority to me, so we will be talking about that a lot more. I wanted to highlight this, which just came out, of Donald Trump and what he had to say about Mark Carney. And it just really has me wondering, like, to all of the Liberals who voted for Carney because they were so afraid of Donald Trump, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? If only our economy was so great that these threats were laughable. Ha ha ha. Nope, we're going to vote for the same government that has put us in this vulnerable position in the first place. But listen to this.
Yeah, and yesterday he spoke about American betrayal. Are you interested in rebuilding relations with Canada? And if so, how?
No, well, I think we're going to have a great relationship. He called me up yesterday. He said, let's make a deal. You know, he was running for office. They both hated Trump. And it was the one that hated Trump, I think, the least that won. I actually think the conservative hated me much more than the so-called liberal. He's a pretty liberal guy. But no, I spoke to him yesterday. He couldn't have been nicer. And I congratulated him. You know, it was a very mixed signal because it's almost even, which makes it very complicated for the country. It's a pretty tight race. But he's a very nice gentleman, and he's going to come to the White House very shortly.
Personally, I have absolutely no idea how you could claim that the party who has been smearing you, smearing conservatives, smearing Republicans for the last 5 years, and also used you and your name in vain, essentially as a way to win the election, is the guy who likes you more, but whatever, that's besides the point. It really just leaves me wondering, and it's like, it's almost laughable actually, because so many people voted Liberal because of Trump. And they said, Mark Carney's going to really take care of him. And then to have Trump say, well, he actually is like way cooler and nicer than the other guy is. Like, it almost, like, I don't know, did Trump just turn a bunch of liberals conservative with that statement? Probably not, because, you know, it's a liberal doing it, so it's okay. It'd only be bad if it was, you know, a conservative. It's just the most outrageous thing. But on that note, there's been so much drama within the Conservative Party, especially with Doug Ford's campaign. And you may have seen this already, but I'm showing it anyway with Jamil Jivani. And he also doubled down earlier today, which I'll show you afterwards. So just take a listen to him being questioned on election night over Doug Ford and all of the drama.
Province, and now he's trying to exercise his influence over other levels of government. And it's not like this guy is doing anything particularly well. I mean, you did used to work for him. I did. I'm speaking from experience. I tried to fix problems in this province, and he kept getting in his way and all his goons around him all the time. They wouldn't make anything better. And now we're seeing him because this guy's a political genius because he beat Bonnie Crombie and Stephen Del Duca. And now we got to sit around getting advice from him? No. He has taken the provincial Conservative Party and turned it into something hollow, unprincipled, something that doesn't solve problems. He's glad-handing with Chrystia Freeland, having coffees and lattes with Mark Carney. And I'm sitting here saying we need to be fighting for change and something new and something different, not being a hype man to the Liberal Party.
We will definitely have a lot more on Doug Ford in tomorrow's episode, because the news that's coming out about that guy right now is just so cringy. It's almost as cringy as Mark Carney doing the elbow dance with his wife. But Jamil Jivani actually doubled down on this today, and he posted this on X. So I'll just leave this here for you to enjoy. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. Thank you so much for watching. And again, truly, and it's not at all for my own benefit. I don't care. I could be talking to two people and it would mean just as much to me. But, you know, we have really seen just how powerful the liberal machine and propaganda is. And if you can do anything at all to help spread these messages, to educate yourself so that you can better debate people or help them when it comes to knowing what is actually going on in this country, I really encourage you to do so. And be sure to subscribe, follow, like, comment, all of those things that help the algorithms push this content out on YouTube, which can hopefully get it seen by more people who really need to hear these messages, especially when I think that there are going to be a lot of liberal supporters who are going to realize the fantasy that they voted for and the absolute destruction that is coming. So while this loss in the federal election is shocking, it's not in the slightest surprising, and we got to counter that. So yes, if you want to subscribe, follow, like, share, comment, all of that stuff really does help so much in just getting this message out there, which is the most important thing that we could possibly do right now, because we got some work to do, conservatives, and I believe in us. I believe that we got this. My support is still totally behind Pierre Poilievre, unless he himself decides not to run anymore, which I don't see being the case anytime soon. As always, thank you so very much for all of your support over the last couple of months. And it truly has changed my life. Like, knowing you is the coolest thing that exists in my world. And I'm so unbelievably grateful for you and for your support, for watching up until this point. Most people don't. So thank you so very much. It means absolutely everything. And I really do believe and have full confidence that, you know, this is phase one of change, and we are going to be okay, and it's going to suck, but we got this, and we're going to get through this. And I will talk to you tomorrow.